Please welcome Michael Mulcair, Principal Project Manager, Smart Infrastructure at Mott MacDonald. Michael will be presenting Disaster Recovery Planning for Critical Infrastructure.
All right. Hello, everyone. All right. Let me did that work? Okay, there we go. Yeah, so just a little bit about myself. With Mott MacDonald, we're a engineering and consulting firm. But a few years ago, we started really taking an emphasis on cybersecurity because, we do a lot of the design work for, process control systems, SCADA systems, for different aspects of civil infrastructure. So I, now chair our internal, cyber physical security committee. I participate in the public transit and surface transit ISAC, and recently just joined the ISA 99 committee. And also, the InfraGuard, I think that's a good resource for individuals to participate in, good information sharing opportunities there. As far as kind of background on how we got to cybersecurity, when I got out of the Navy, I went into biotech as a process engineer, and really started focusing on kind of the instrumentation and control systems, the SCADA systems that made the plant operate. And after working on projects where we're trying to integrate our SCADA system or with our DCS with the manufacturing execution systems, and then trying to tie in some of our ERP and enterprise asset management. There's a lot of challenges that, but then it also represents a huge opportunity, and we start getting these ideas about Industry 4.0 and the fourth industrial revolution. Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided I wanted to do something in critical infrastructure, civil infrastructure. So that's why I joined Mott MacDonald. But as we started trying to take up opportunities to take our basic steel and concrete infrastructure and make it smarter, we started integrating a lot of technologies that then kind of introduced this challenge of cybersecurity. So that's kind of how I got to where I am here. So, U.S. federal government, we have 16 sectors of critical infrastructure. In those, most of them fall under the Department of Homeland Security, and in particular, CISA, is kind of that body that provides kind of direction and guidance. But then in specific sectors, like water and transportation, we have specific agencies that are establishing rules. Now these agencies, they provide guidance. They also establish regulations. But then there's a lot of other bodies that also provide information. So there's NIST, and we've talked a lot about like cybersecurity framework, and then like the SB 800 series. We've got 82, which deals with OT. 184, 184, which is a kind of cybersecurity event recovery. And then, within, ISO, ISA, IEC, they provide kind of generic guidances. And then we get into kind of the sector-specific stuff, like NERC CIP 009, the AWA, the APTA, these trade organizations also develop guidances. And kind of the point of what I'm trying to get across here is that there's a lot of guidance out there. There's some that are very sector specific. There's some that are kind of overarching. Some like in this case, like the J100 and the M19 for AWWA, the American Water Works Association. These are more kind of generic disaster recovery and risk assessment. So they're not necessarily specific about cybersecurity, but a lot of those principles are still applicable. Whether it's you had a hurricane that flooded a control room, or a cyber attack that damaged equipment in that control room, being able to recover those systems and getting them up and running again, there's a lot of the same principles. So I guess the key take home here is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of information already out there, and you just need to look at the guidances that are either mandated by regulation, or maybe sector specific or kind of universal, but see what's out there. Now, as far as like the defense in depth, this is kind of a common tenet, where we try to provide, separation or protection, of our OT systems, and, with critical infrastructure, it's not just, the kind of the protection of the systems themselves. The physical aspect takes a big precedent because, it's one thing to have a SCADA server inside a control room inside your manufacturing plant. It's another thing to have a PLC or RTU on some street corner, or some SCADA equipment that's sitting out in a out in the woods, on some easement, so it's really important to take consideration, there's the physical security aspects, to ensure that threats can't actually get access to your systems. And then we get into the kind of the policies and procedures, training, maintenance, patch management. One that's actually not listed here that's really significant deals with the supply chain risk management. But this talk is about disaster recovery, so I want to get a little more into that now. So a lot of it comes down to managing risk, understanding what those risks are and being able to address them. So, like in the water sector, which we just had a talk, kind of focused on that, there's the American Water Infrastructure Act, 2018 that, established some specific requirements, specifically Section 2013, states that organizations, water systems have to have some type of risk and resilience plan. So that kind of led to a lot of guidance being developed. So in this case, like CISA provided some recommendations on cybersecurity, and a lot of agencies kind of fell back to that J100, the risk analysis plan, which from there you develop the kind of a long list of what are your risks and vulnerabilities and how do you mitigate them. But understand that those risks are really a key first step to putting in place a recovery plan. And this is actually an excerpt out of the Cybersecurity Framework 2.0, which is still in draft. But you can see that risk goes up several times in this. And that risk kind of feeds down into developing these recovery plans. Another item that I'll talk a little bit more in a subsequent slide is also around the kind of asset management, establishing a good asset registry. And the other point of this, some of these bullets on the side here, is that kind of a plug for NIST, that they've put a lot of work into developing this updated cybersecurity framework. They've had some workshops with industry to at their National Cybersecurity Center of Excellence to take feedback, and it's, as I said, it's still in draft. It's still in the comment period. So if you want to take a look at it and provide comments, the deadline is November 4th. We also have SB 882. That's also there's a version out in draft. So please take a look at that. But the other bullet point here is that when it comes to cyber risk and the need to develop a recovery plan, in a lot of cases it's not necessarily an if but when. So it's really important to be proactive on this. So why is it important? Well, critical infrastructure, it's very central, to our economic well-being, our society, safety, but also the increasing integration of digital technologies into the infrastructure is also provided an increased threat surface, which means that we have to take more proactive measures to ensure it's protected, but also recognizing that there's a high potential for it to be impacted, to be able to recover from it. And then with these different sectors of critical infrastructure, they're so integrated now. If you lose water, you lose a manufacturing plant, or you can't run DoD facilities. If you lose electricity, then you lose water. So they're very interdependent. So having a recovery plan that ensures you can get systems back up and running not only impacts the specific sector you may be in, but it also impacts a lot of other sectors. And as you can see some of here, the consequences, loss of operations, information leaks, equipment failure or damage. In fact, I think it was 2021. Deloitte actually made the prediction that by 2025, a cyber attack, will successfully weaponize, cybersecurity to the point of causing, harm or human death. So. All right, so when it comes to oh, sorry, I forgot I had extra click in here. But and this is going to be a plug for CISA. That's they're a federal agency that under the Department of Homeland Security. That they basically provide resources to help organizations understand risk and prepare and mitigate for attacks. So and they have a program called Shields Up. So take a look at that. It's said CISA is a very good resource. You can reach out to the local offices, and they'll often provide training or or other types of support. All right, I mentioned asset management earlier. So one thing that's kind of foundational, but is often a challenge is having a good asset registry. So understanding what physical assets are out there. Your PLCs, RTUs, maybe remote controllers. There's also kind of that ubiquitous IT equipment that sees its home in OT. Things like your PowerEdge servers, OITs, HMIs, and then a lot of database servers. Running like Microsoft SQL Server. So there's a lot of that kind of IT type equipment, and then also that IT type equipment that is kind of permeates the OT world now. We're dealing with things like network switches and routers and firewalls. You have remote installations. You may have cellular modems and other types of equipment kind of dispersed. So getting a good list of those is important to being able to do that kind of risk assessment. And then and when it comes to being able to recover, it's part of your procedures also need to look at how you can restore these different types of assets. So PLCs, a lot of proprietary technologies, and one of the challenges with the PLCs is that they last a while. So typical PLC may have a service life between 8 and 12 years, whereas a computer, you're swapping those out every 3 or 4 years. So you end up with a lot of older technology, which may not have the same capabilities that you have now. So understanding how you can back up those that type of equipment, it may involve some type of proprietary software. Whether or not you can use like remotely access the PLC to do the backup, or do you need to plug into it with some type of serial connection? So as you document, your different assets, you also need to think about how you can back up those assets and how you will restore information to those assets. And then also just keeping spares. If there is damage to one of these assets, being able to quickly swap out components, is an important part of that recovery. When it comes to the IT hardware, the servers, PCs. Workstations, there's, it's first fundamental step is developing, images, that kind of have the original state of those devices, and then whatever backups you need to make or refreshes of those images as you make updates to the installed software and equipment. And then the applications, the sequence in which you need to do restorations. You may restore back to an image, that was when the system was first installed, but then you have to then kind of install a series of updates or restoration of software that may need a specific sequence. So being able to document that, is important. And then if you have data, that needs to be restored, being able to restore stuff from, to a database, where that may be a lot of, basically you're going to need to do like, differential backups and be able to recover those backups. Now, on the topic of backups, the other consideration is, where do you store those backups? Because it's, there's a lot of kind of threat intelligence now that's saying that, when it comes to malware attacks, the attacks aren't just attacking the systems themselves, but they're also looking for the backups. So if you have your backups online, they can become vulnerable. So make sure that you do have them online. You have copies that are air gapped so that they are protected. And then talking about kind of your network equipment, there's a lot of different types of network equipment. Again, this stuff, some of it, enables central management, so you can more readily recover that equipment. But if it's doesn't, if it's a switch, out in the field somewhere, then you may need to be able to plug into it, to be able to develop kind of images of it, and then being able to, but then not just the image information, but also just being able to have documentation of IP addresses and network maps, and, so that you can more effectively kind of troubleshoot as you're trying to recover the systems. The good news is as technologies move forward, there's a lot of technologies that can help. A lot of modern PLCs and SCADA systems, they have software repositories that make configuration management, version control much easier, so that you have kind of a central location where you can go back to in order to start restoring components. Similarly with as I just mentioned with the network switches and firewalls. A lot of that stuff can be centrally managed as well. So look for those opportunities to use that equipment. And then with the workstations, servers, the fact that a lot of those systems now are being virtualized. So you have VMs that are installed on some type of hardware. But if the hardware is damaged, it's much easier to be able to restore to a VM. Because now you have an environment that's already defined, for those particular systems, as opposed to worrying about, okay, I had to switch out this hardware because it was damaged. Will this system, reinstall correctly? So that's another opportunity. Is that kind of virtualization of the physical assets. And then, so you develop the asset inventory. You figured out how to back up and restore, equipment, you develop procedures. It's important to then train on those. One of the things that the military, is big on is this idea of training to develop kind of a muscle reflex, on how you respond to situations. You don't want to be scrambling around trying to figure out how to do something. Reading a procedure and say, okay, I think I need to do this, but I'm not exactly sure how to do it. By running training exercises and practicing it, on some type of periodicity, is important to being able to quickly respond and have people understand their roles, understand where to go to get the information, where are the backups stored, what sequence do I have to reinstall these backups, and then this simulation of attacks, doing kind of capture the flag or tabletop exercises, is another good way to test your ability to respond to events. In fact, like the OT ISAC, based in Singapore, they have kind of a regular capture the flag type activity, where they're providing opportunity for organizations to kind of practice this recovery. And when it comes to disaster, of course, there's going to be a lot of organizations that are keen to ensure that you can get back up and running. Internally, you've got the plant manager, the chief engineer. You may have your board of directors, but there's also a lot of external organizations that can provide support. As I mentioned, CISA earlier. That's one of their key objectives. Is to provide support to critical infrastructure. Every FBI field office has some type of cyber unit that's there to help investigate and cyber incidents, and can help with kind of the forensics of an event. Of course, in like the last presentation, the discussion about cyber insurance. They in some cases will be able to provide some resources, but at the very least, they should be in the loop when you have some type of event. Then your integrators, the companies that help implement your systems. A lot of times they may have backups, that if there's some issue with your backups, or just general knowledge on how to restore the systems. So keeping those relationships strong is valuable. So it's very good to reach out to these different organizations beforehand, and also when you start developing your your cyber response plan, have phone numbers, have contacts, so that people know where to go to find the people they need. But communications, it's really valuable. All right. Well, it's kind of some of the takeaways from this. I guess the first and foremost is kind of do your homework up front. Work on the plan. It can be a bit tedious, but being able to have a plan before you need it is certainly valuable. Backups. There's a lot of different types of equipment you're dealing with. So develop those backups. Understand how to use them. How to and what sequence you need to do those restorations, and make sure they're protected, so that they can't be compromised in the event of a cyber attack. Version history or configuration management, that kind of goes hand in hand with the backups, but knowing, what's the correct version, of the software, so that you're installing the right backups. The procedures, write things down. These plans, kind of suggest that there is something written down. So make sure that people, have access to the procedure, they're trained on the procedure, and can, take, that written word into some type of action. And then, this conference has a lot of vendors. There's a lot of technology that can help in the management of, the backups of, system configuration, as well as, being able to recover. So look at what technologies may be of use. And then, kind of that, as the last slide said, communications, both internally and externally, when you have events will go a long way. And one of the purposes, I didn't mention on the last slide, but like the ISACs, the Information Sharing and Analysis Centers, each critical infrastructure sector has an ISAC, and they are a good resource, for conveying information as well as getting information when it comes to these events. And with that, open up to questions. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Oh. Yes.
So tabletop exercise, which you talked as one of the very important and great exercise, how do you handle, or in your experience, if you can share, typically the OT specialists who come for the tabletop exercise, they're more worried about being exposed, being challenged for cybersecurity. On the contrary, the IT security practice professionals who will come on the table, they come with a large, abundant knowledge, and they try to overwhelm the session. So how, in your experience, in such positions, have you handled the tabletop exercises?
I'm sorry.
It's a question, so I'm just trying to learn from your experience. That's the whole idea.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you talk about kind of like lessons learned, being able to track information to be able to. Well, I think when I talk about like the tabletop exercises, the the training sessions, there's always a value from doing some type of like reconstruction, or debrief. So I think that's one avenue. The ISACs are another avenue that I think that there's an increasing push, for particularly from like the national cybersecurity policy, to have greater level of information sharing, so that different bodies are communicating with each other, so that there is a repository of knowledge, and I think that's where participation in the ISACs is valuable. I think engagement with CISA is valuable, as external sources of information, but I don't want to undervalue the value of the training and doing post practice exercise, debriefs, so that you can start capturing that and circling that back into your updates to your procedures and policies. Hope that answered the question. Yeah. All right, any other questions? All right, well, thank you, everyone.